On this podcast, we only reserve the P word, passive, for like things that I truly believe can be. And I don't like that word usually, but I will use it when I feel like it applies. And it seems like this is one of those exceptions where it does apply.
The best part about this business model, we talk about the money and everything like that, and that's awesome. But genuinely, once you get that client in the door, this becomes 99% passive. Your website does not need to be touched ever again. I have clients that have been with me for 5 years, and I haven't spoken to them or had any communication with them since. And they've been paying me every single month. And that's my goal. People like to talk about real estate like it's passive, but it's definitely
Oh, jeez. Don't get me started.
Definitely not. This is 1,000 times more passive than real estate because the risk is so much lower. You're not taking out a $500,000 mortgage on some property. And the overhead is so low in this business. If you're using the most drag and drop user-friendly tools, you're spending no more than like $25 a month in total overhead. Our company does around $100,000 a month as a whole, and our overhead's maybe less than $5,000 a month. Yeah, it's crazy. I was so desperate to get out of the situation I was in my previous career. I just threw out the number. I go $6,000, and within 20 minutes it was wired. And I looked at my wife. I'm like, somebody just wired me $6,000. I'm like, it didn't seem real. I was chasing time freedom, and I tried finding it in things like drop shipping, day trading, other business models online. But when I found this business model, I was in it for the time freedom and the easiness of it. But the real thing that gets me excited is the unlimited amount of time I get to spend with my kid.
So let me tell you about Kyle. A while back, Kyle texted an old high school friend a screen recording, and 20 minutes later had $6,000 wired into his bank account, and he had never earned $1 online before that day. 6 years later, he runs what he calls a website landlord business, doing about $104,000 a month with almost no overhead. And yes, he works only an hour or two a day. He uses cheap online tools to find supply and demand gaps. Then he builds basic websites within those niches. So today, of course, we're going to talk about how you can copy Kyle, what his script is for closing these deals, and what niches are still untapped. Enjoy. All right. Well, Kyle, tell me what a website landlord is.
So essentially, a website landlord is people who own pieces of internet real estate. And it's not domain flipping or anything like that. You're basically building a website for a certain niche in a certain city and then renting out that lead flow that comes through it to an actual local business owner. So let me give you an example. If I were to build a website right now for junk removal services in Austin, Texas, I don't own a junk removal company. I don't have a client that has a junk removal company. Anybody can build whatever website they want, you know? So I go out and build this website that's all about junk removal services in Austin, Texas. I do what's called SEO on the website to get it ranking. It involves content and something called backlinks we can get into later. But I get that website ranking to page 1. And once it's on page 1 of Google so that it shows up anytime somebody searches for junk removal services in Austin, Texas, obviously people are going to be clicking on it. Obviously, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people in Austin, Texas every day going to Google to try and find a junk removal company. So if my website is one of those sites on page 1, I'm going to get a percentage of those people searching. And so once they come to my site, they're going to see the little phone number that's on my website, right? It's called a tracking phone number. I can control where all those calls flow to. It's my like dummy number. So when people call that phone number, it automatically forwards to a business owner I've partnered up with, right? But to backtrack just a hair, before I even have a business owner hooked up to them, I'm getting the site to page 1. It's getting calls. At first, I'm just letting all those calls go to voicemail before I have a client working with me. It's no big deal. Let them go to voicemail. There will be more callers next month. There's never ending.
And you're capturing their info. They're not as likely to convert, if you find a guy to buy your leads and he calls them later, but at least you still have the data and it's proof of concept. So you can say, hey, Bob, I get 3 calls a day for people searching for exactly what you're selling.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Well, the best part about this is that the overhead is so low in this business model. Like if you're using the most expensive tools or like the most drag and drop user-friendly tools, you're spending no more than like $25 a month in total overhead per site. That's for the hosting, the URL, and the phone number, right? So the benefit of that is that once I do have a website that's getting like 50 to 100 calls or so a month, I'm calling up that junk removal company in Austin, Texas, and I'm like, hey man, I got this website. It's getting like 50 calls a month of people looking for junk removal services in Austin. Can I connect them to you for a week for free? And I'm not going to take a credit card information from you. I'm not going to make you sign anything. It's literally just a free trial. And sometimes it sounds too good to be true to them. And there's like, it sounds suspicious, but usually they're like, well, whatever. All you need is my email and phone number. So you give them the free trial.
And you just want them to start trusting you and to see that your leads are good. So then they'll want to pay for them, right?
Exactly. So I give them the free trial. And by the end of that week, if they've made some money off my calls, that next conversation I have with them is really just about what monthly flat fee we negotiate.
Can I pause you? Because I feel like that's a big key of this is if they're making any money on my calls, how do you know that they're reporting accurately, that they're not lying, that they're following up with the leads, that they're actually answering the phone, et cetera? Or does there just have to be a good bit of trust involved?
Well, I could see if they're answering the calls or not. Sometimes in the call tracking platform, I could see the recordings and stuff. But the thing is if they didn't make any money off of it, then they're probably not going to be a good client for me anyway. So I'm just going to move on to the next person, because if they're not making money off of it, why would they pay me? Right?
Sure.
And if they are making money off of it, they're not going to want me to turn the calls off.
So the incentives are aligned.
Exactly. So
can you see the recordings or the call transcripts as well?
Yes.
So if they're like, sorry, yeah, I got a few calls, but didn't go anywhere. And then you look at the transcript and it's like, all right, $700 invoice sent. You're like, hey, bro.
Yes.
But you're saying that doesn't even happen that often because they see that the calls are good. And now it's just a matter of not will you pay me, but how much will you pay me?
Yeah. We come up with a flat fee, and I don't do any contracts with them. I'm just like, you know what? Cancel anytime, because I have the leverage, because I'm sending them the calls. And if they cancel, the calls go away. So they're basically, if they cancel, they're agreeing to lose a big portion of their income, right? So they could cancel whenever they want, right? So they have that exit. So it's a pretty easy conversation. They saw the calls, they trust me, versus a standard marketing company who does like sells Google ads or Facebook ads or something like that. These sales calls for those people, it's a trust game. They're working out like, hey, can I convince this guy to pay me $1,500 a month for the next 6 months and without any guarantee of results, right? That's a tough sell. It's like you have to show them testimonials and be like, look, I promise you I'm really, really good at this, but sign this contract and you're going to pay me for the next 6 months, whether I get you results or not. With me, the whole script is flipped, because I'm like, hey, I already did the work of building and ranking a website, and it's sending you calls and you're making money off of me before we even agree on a deal. And I'm not pressure selling.
Yeah.
This is more of like a landlord and tenant relationship, not like oh, customer, please work with me relationship.
This is the rent.
Yeah.
And if you don't like, I've had rental homes. It's like the rent is not negotiable because I've got 18 people applying for this house.
100%. Right? You don't want these calls? I'm just going to call Joe down the street. And I know it sounds like aggressive and mean, but like my service is hugely beneficial to small business owners who can't afford to take that $1,500 a month risk on some marketing company with no guarantee of results. These small businesses, most of the guys I work with, they don't have $1,500 to gamble on a marketing company. So with me, there's no gambling. Day one, they're getting leads to pay for my services. There's never a loss of money. I'm an instant slot machine. You put $1,000 into me, I'm sending you $5,000 back. You see what I mean? So it's really a huge benefit to these like more mom and pops that can't afford to gamble in a marketing company.
Well, you mentioned like, I don't have contracts. Like I don't negotiate on price. And this is a trust business, and results are the greatest form of trust there is, right? Contracts equal lack of trust in a relationship. You're saying, I already brought you results. They were free. I called you and I brought you results. Like, this is the price. I don't need a contract because I got a guy waiting.
Exactly. I'm not afraid of you canceling. I could call the next person.
I loved, like, this is one of my general frameworks for life, is do the hard thing first. So like if you start a business and it is just a beast and you're beating your head against the wall and it takes months to get profitable, that means everything after that point is just going to be so much nicer and easier. Every business after that point, every sale after that point in the same business. You're saying, listen, bro, I did the hard part. The hard part is ranking. That's my skill. You're good at junk removal. You keep doing that. I'm really good at being a website landlord. I've already done the hard part. I've proven the results. And then everything after that is just gravy.
Exactly. It's just day one results. And that's really the benefit. The only downside for the business owner is that their brand isn't being advertised on my site, right? But they don't
Yeah.
care because the only reason you want to be on page one is because you want the customers that come from page one. And it's tons.
Yeah.
It's not just any customers. It's high intent customers because no one is typing into Google junk removal services in Austin unless they're looking to purchase junk removal services in Austin. And plus, a lot of these people have had experience with paid ads, and paid ads, you get such low ROI because you pay thousands of dollars for them. And plus, if you're anything like me, which I think most searchers are, once you go to search on Google and you see a bunch of ads in the top section of the front page, you scroll right past them and go to the results below, which is where we are, because people have this inclination, or what's the word? The belief that if you're in the spots below the ads, that means you're the best in town. When in reality, showing up right there has nothing to do with your quality of work. You could be the worst junk removal company in the whole state, and you'll still be on page one because you have good SEO.
Well, it's just like anything. If you're the best at marketing, you win.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the best part about this business model, we talk about the money and everything like that, and that's awesome. But genuinely, once you get that client in the door, this becomes 99% passive. All right. As you scale to more, because once the site is built and ranked, majority of the time, your website does not need to be touched ever again because we're competing in low competition SEO spaces.
Like long tail searches?
Not even, because junk removal Austin might not be a great example because I haven't done my research on an actual low hanging fruit niche and city. But SEO is just a game of competition. I don't want to go into a niche where, like personal injury lawyer Los Angeles, where the competing websites are funded by major marketing companies that these law firms are paying $50,000 a month to. I want to compete against Joe, Bill, and Steve in Orem, Utah, with a junk removal company where they have websites that I'm competing against. They bought those websites maybe back in 2005 and haven't touched them since. And so I go in there, make a half decent site and do basic SEO, and I'm knocking them out of the park really quickly. And I don't have to do ongoing SEO to maintain the site because I'm already so far ahead, and they're not even noticing that they're not in the number one spot anymore. And they're still getting roughly the same amount of calls because being in spot 1, 2, or 3 is roughly the same.
Yeah. Funny because Orem, Utah is actually really competitive usually. Oh, yeah. So all those return missionaries like myself. I know you just picked that state at random, but super competitive there.
But I want to just mention the passive part one more time because it is genuinely passive. The only time it becomes like maybe an hour or two a day of work is when you scale up to a point where I'm at, where I have like over 100 clients, and maybe 20% of those clients every month, credit cards decline. And I have to go follow up with payment, right? And so this involves me shooting out texts and emails every day to follow up with them to collect the payment. Maybe by the end of the month, 1 or 2 of them don't pay. I have some churn. And then I'm following up, just making phone calls to find a new client to replace them.
Yeah. Hey, YouTube's fine, but what about when you're driving around? What about when you're mowing the lawn? You need my audio podcast, The Kerner Office. Just look up TKO Pod in Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I mean, what we're talking about is basic supply and demand. You're saying you look to the supply and demand first, not necessarily the keyword volume, but the supply and demand. And there are at least 1,000 home service niches out there. And I know that sounds like too much, but there's really not. If I say the word gutters, then it's gutter cleaning, gutter repair, gutter replacement. Like just in the gutters, there's at least 10, right? So let's just say there's 1,000 to be conservative. And then let's say there's only 1,000 cities worthy of trying to rank. That's 1 million supply and demand variations that we're talking about. Are you telling me that the market is so perfectly efficient that all 1 million of those combinations are there's the right amount of supply and demand in all of them? Absolutely not. In a decade from now, there still won't be, right? So that's the level of opportunity here. And on this podcast, we only reserve the P word, passive, for like things that I truly believe can be. And I don't like that word usually, but I will use it when I feel like it applies. And it seems like this is one of those exceptions where it does apply.
So listen, it's not like dividends, right? It's not passive dividends.
Well, it takes activity to get to the passive point.
I'll tell you right now, people like to talk about real estate like it's passive, but it's definitely
Oh, jeez. Don't get me started.
definitely not. This is 1,000 times more passive than real estate because the risk is so much lower. You're not taking out a $500,000 mortgage on some property, and your overhead is maybe $20 to $25 a month in total overhead. Plus, you cash flow way more, and the maintenance is so much lower.
So let me ask you about pricing. I'm going to make an assumption here because I'm kind of in this industry and I've been in lead gen forever. Different types of lead gen, directory sites. To me, there's a lot of overlap here with directory sites. I mean, a directory site could be a website landlord, a rank and rent site, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to make an assumption that you've tested a pay per lead model here as opposed to a flat monthly price model because you thought, man, we could be much more profitable if we charge $30 per call. And $30 per call is very generous because we know that his close rate's 50%. His average job is $800. So $30 per call is cheap for him. You tested it and then you saw that it just didn't work as well because these business owners want to know what their bill is going to be every month. Even if they net out behind, they would rather pay you a flat fee every month because of the predictability of it. Is that accurate at all?
So what most of these business owners want to do is a commission based, and they want to just pay on jobs they close. But obviously I can't do that because that requires me to track all their jobs and trust them to be honest. There's no way for me to know if they actually close a job or not.
And if you could trust them perfectly, it'd probably be more profitable for you.
I'm actually, it's funny you bring that up because for the first time ever, my contractor that I use for my house, we've become pretty good friends. And just recently I started generating concrete leads for him. And we're actually doing a 10% commission with it. And it's turning out to be way more profitable. But that's because I totally trust him and he's a cool guy.
Yeah. Yep.
But the pay-per-call thing, yes, it's unpredictable for the client. And I've done things in the past where they have fluctuating tiers of rates where it's like, hey, if you get 25 to 50 calls, you're going to pay this much. If you get 50 to 100 calls, you're going to pay this much. I've kind of abandoned that, not only for the client's sake, but for my sake. I know I do really well. I make around $35K a month, and it might sound impressive to some people, and it is, I guess, kind of impressive.
Is that profit?
That's pretty much. The overhead is like so low.
Wow.
Our company does around $100,000 a month as a whole, and our overheads maybe less than $5,000 a month. Yeah, it's crazy. But the point I'm trying to make is I am not one of those aggressive entrepreneurs with like SOPs and watching motivation videos and going to the gym every morning. I am at my core a fairly lazy guy. Like I used to work in television. I worked in television for 10 years and I was working 20 to 24-hour days some days during show weeks. Like I worked on award shows like the Oscars, the Emmys, and big shows like that. And when there's a deadline, there's no avoiding that deadline. I was grinding it out and got burnt out and started looking for business models. I guess the reason that relates to what I'm about to say is because I was chasing time freedom, and I tried finding it in things like drop shipping, day trading, other business models online. But when I found this business model, I was in it for the time freedom and the easiness of it. And so when I first started, I had this rush of motivation built out really, really big for the first few years because I had my eye on the prize. But I'm in year 6 of doing this business model now, right? And at the level I'm making, which some people would assume I should probably be making more after 6 years, but I've kind of fallen into the comfort zone. I'm making a number that I'm really comfortable with. But the reason I've switched from the tiered pricing to the monthly flat rate pricing is because I wanted simplicity. When you have the tiered pricing, I have clients reaching out to me being like, why did my invoice pop up to $1,500 this month? Then they want to go over every single lead with me and determine whether it was actually a legitimate lead or not.
Yeah.
I don't want that headache. I'd rather make less money and have this be 100% passive than squeak out an extra 5 to 10 grand a month because I'm like over analyzing and auditing all the leads.
Auditing leads. Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with that.
That makes a lot of sense.
I have clients that have been with me for 5 years and I haven't spoken to them or had any communication with them since. And they've been paying me every single month. And that's my goal.
How long did it take you after starting this 6 years ago to see your first win?
3 months. I kind of did it a backwards way. Since I was really hungry to get money in the door, I didn't do it the classic way of building the sites first, then finding the client. What I did was I went onto my phone, I went into my Facebook, Instagram, I made a list of all the business owners I knew, right? And I came across this one friend of mine who was an attorney, a workers' comp attorney. He was a friend of mine from high school. I hadn't talked to him in 10 years though, but I reached out to him. I made a screencast video where I recorded my screen and showed him how this business model works and how I could build him a site targeting Torrance. I could build him a site targeting Long Beach, Anaheim, Simi Valley, and specific cities targeting where I could generate him leads from. And he loved the idea. He wanted to try it. And he said, what do I have to pay to get this ball rolling? And so I had never made that single dollar in my life outside of W-2 earnings. And so I just threw out a number because I always heard in movies and stuff, aim high. And, you know,
in your defense, like a personal injury attorney as like an agency owner is like the golden client.
Well, it was a workers.
They've got budgets.
Attorney. It was a worker.
Oh, okay, you said that. Okay.
So it was a little less.
Attorneys are great clients.
Yeah.
They've got cash.
Yes, exactly. I just threw out the number. I go $6,000. And within 20 minutes, it was wired. And I looked at my wife. I'm like, somebody just wired me $6,000. I'm like, it didn't seem real. But the good thing about that is I still at the time wasn't like an expert at this. But what was good about that is that this was somebody I knew. And I didn't want to burn his trust and burn a relationship.
Sure.
And so by him sending me that money, it lit a fire to get things going. I didn't care.
Over deliver.
Yeah. I didn't care if I spent every single dime of that $6,000 in outsourcing or the ways to make it happen faster. I just needed to deliver results because I knew if I did, it would be a long-term relationship. And he's still my client to this day.
Wow. Now, what does he pay on an ongoing basis?
Well, since he was a friend, he did have fluctuating. At first, we started out at like 5,000 or so a month. And then once the lead flow started increasing, I got to like 7,500 a month and stuff. But over time, like we've restructured deals because he is a friend. We go on hikes and stuff sometimes. He started paying me like $300 per new client he landed, which added a little bit more incentive to me. And then he would also pay a base SEO fee of like $1,500. So he paid me $1,500 a month plus $300 per new client he signs up.
Wow. So you spent your first 3 months just learning. Were you building and publishing anything or just kind of learning tools?
Yeah, I was just building and learning.
Well, I think it's so important that when anyone launches any agency, digital marketing, whatever, start with your network. Like it all comes down to trust. Don't be afraid to burn your friend. Like just let it light a fire under you to over deliver and start with your network. Because if you just start cold with people out of insecurity, which I've done that before, it's going to be so much harder to get your first yes. But if you get your first yes from a friend, now you have a case study that you can sell to all the cold leads.
100%. Right? I always tell people, I think a key is digging yourself into a hole. You know, which is what I did.
It sounds crazy, but I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. I accepted $6,000 from this guy, and I'm not the type of person that feels comfortable just robbing someone. So I felt this overwhelming pressure to dig myself out of this hole. I'm like, he's expecting something very soon. I got to get into action. It's kind of like a gym membership. You know, if you go sign up at Planet Fitness and you're paying $10 a month, it's very easy for you to be like, I don't feel like going this month. Big deal, $10, right? But if you're spending like $500 a month on a gym membership, you're gonna be like, I better show up because